welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gerard Younger, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over camera lenses and in particular, focal lengths. So when I first started in photography, I discovered that you could buy the camera and the lenses separately. And if you are currently confused as I was when I first started looking into this, you're probably seeing a bunch of different lens options and they all have different numbers. And you're asking yourself probably, what does these numbers mean and how do they translate into the real world on my camera? So to try to demonstrate that for you, I have 5 different focal lengths. I have a 14, a 35, a 50, an 85, and a 135 millimeter that I'm going to go ahead and compare to show you in this video. So if you're interested, stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and roll the comparison footage. So let's take a look. So hopefully that provided you with a good visual foundation to show you the different perspectives that you can get between each focal length. Now, I do want to state that the camera did not move. It was actually stationary on a tripod, and the only thing that changed was the lens to try to demonstrate for you the different viewing angles that you can get between each focal length. Now, generally speaking, there are 5 categories that you can group focal lengths into. One would be ultra wide angle. Those are typically lenses that are below 24 millimeters. So your 10, your 14, your 16 millimeters, those would be considered to be ultra wide angles. Next up is going to be your wide angle, and the focal lengths that typically fall into this category would be lenses between 24 millimeters and 35 millimeters. These are still going to be wide. They just won't be as wide as an ultra wide. They offer a bit of a step up in terms of a tighter viewing angle when you move from an ultra wide to a wide angle. But moving up the ladder of categorizations of focal lengths, the next that would be standard, and that would fall between a 50 millimeter and under a 70 millimeter. These are going to just be considered to be standard lenses, and they're going to offer a different perspective compared to your ultra wide angles and your wide angles. Next on the list is going to be telephoto lenses, and the focal ranges that land in this category would be around 70 millimeters to 200 to 300 millimeters. These are going to give you a much more zoomed in image compared to your ultra wide and your wide angles. When you start to get into millimeters around or above the 300 millimeter range, you would then be entering into the last categorization, which is going to be super telephoto. And these are going to be from 300 and up, so 400 or 600 millimeter. These are going to give you a higher magnification or a zoom range compared to your ultra wides, your wides, or even your standard lenses. Before I begin this section, I do want to state that there is no set in stone rules that you have to use a specific type of focal length for a particular type of photography. You have the creative freedom to experiment to find which exact lens you prefer for your style of photography. Now, I will be breezing over the general recommendations for each focal length category that I've gone over in this video, which was ultra wide, wide, standard, telephoto, and super telephoto. And we'll start with the ultra wide first. For this category, again, this would be 10 millimeter, 11, 12, 14, 16 millimeter lenses. These could generally be used for astrophotography, which is taking photos of the stars in the night sky. These could be used for architectural photography, which is taking photos of buildings or cities, landscapes. Landscape would be another type of photography that you could use these lenses for. Interior photography would be another ideal area to use ultra wides in. They typically shine in that category as well. Now, photography lenses are not just limited to photography. They can also be used for video. So on the video side, ultra wides would work great for streaming. They have a wide angle view, so you can get yourself and a lot of your space in the frame. The same thing applies for vlogging if you're looking to vlog, and especially if you're hand holding your camera. Having an ultra wide would be a really good option. That would be the way to go because it's just going to make it easier for you to keep yourself in frame as opposed to something like a wide angle, which has a more narrower view. So it's going to be more challenging to keep yourself in a frame with a wide angle compared to a ultra wide. That pretty much encompasses the ultra wide category. Moving on to the next one on our list, which would be wide angles. Now, again, this falls between around 24 and 35 millimeter range. These could be used for roughly around the same things that you could use an ultra wide for, but I would add street photography and portrait photography to this category. On the portrait side of things, you can get your subject and a good bit of your background or a location in the shot. And so these are really nice to have. Next up on the list is going to be the standard category. Now, in my opinion, this has a very versatile range. One of my most used and most favorite focal ranges is a standard lens, and that's going to be a 50 millimeter. I use a 50 on every gig. I've used it for a wedding. I've used it for events. I've used it for many portraits, and it just has a very flattering look to it, and it just fits my style of photography. Next up is going to be telephoto. Telephotos do an extremely great job at portrait photography. Now, I love to use a 50, but when it comes to telephotos like an 85, a 90, a 135 millimeter, they do a really good job at background separation when it comes to portrait photography. So to give you an example, I have an image that I took with a 135 and the background was very messy. I had power cables or power lines in the shot. I had a gate and I had trees, and the 135 just obliterates the background. Like, it turns it into a mushy artwork. And so the background separation that you get with these higher focal lengths are really great for portrait photography. Now, it doesn't end there for telephotos. Telephotos are also good for sports photography and wildlife, but then that leads us into super telephotos. So if you are looking to get serious into sports and wildlife photography, you may be looking at, or you may want to look at, a super telephoto lens. So these are going to be the 400s, the 600s, the 800s. These are really for a specific niche of photography. So there's not going to be a lot of photographers out there that you'll meet that will have these in their kit. But I will say these are very fun to have. Super telephotos, you're going to have a blast. They're going to be your go-to for photographing objects that are far away. So this was pretty much a simplified overview of focal lengths and the differences between them and the different types and what they could be used for. Now, there's no set restrictions. You can use whatever focal length you want to use for whichever type of photography that you would like to do. But I do want to just say that if you're looking to do portrait photography, an ultra wide and a wide lens, you can be pretty close to your subject. With a standard, you'll have to separate a little bit. With a super telephoto or telephoto lens, you'll have to be pretty far away. Typically, a telephoto lens would be fine. If you have a super telephoto like a 400, a 600, or 800 millimeter, you're going to have to distance yourself from the subject that you're trying to photograph, and that's going to make it more challenging to communicate with them. So essentially, you want to have the right tool for the right job. And so an ultra wide, a wide, a standard, or a short telephoto lens would be more practical than a super telephoto lens. Just keep that in mind. Welcome to the end of the video. If you've stayed this far, I really do appreciate you. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make. Now, I didn't cover everything that I wanted to cover in this video. There are still more things to talk about related to camera lenses. So zoom versus prime, aperture, distortion that you get with certain lenses, and compression. So if you were interested in what I talked about in this video, feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in a part 2. Have a great one. Peace.